Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grande Bouffe.
The Big Feast.
With myself, Cole Smithey, and my co-host, Mike Lacy. As always, we are here to copiously consume international politics and culture through the prism of a single film and a different craft beer each week. We've been doing this for a while.
That's
Mike.
true, yeah. Well, approximately how long? It's been like...
It's coming up on a year and a half, I think.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Year and a half, and we've never gotten to this cinema classic.
Until now.
Until now. It's a good very end of the summer. It's technically fall, right? Is it fall yet? Summer over?
Yeah, it's fall now. We're in fall.
Let's and also these are evergreen episodes, but it's good because it was about 80 degrees in New York City this past week, even though it's
I'm still waiting for that autumnal air to waft through the windows. So Sierra Nevada, I thought would be a good choice for us. I think I underestimated the ABV though, because this seems like a session beer, but then I'm drinking it and I'm feeling it.
It says 5.3 on it.
Okay, so it's a session beer. The Sidecar Orange Pale Ale from Sierra Nevada. We had them chilled in the freezer just long enough to put just a shade of icy flotation in the glass. And it's very orangey. I like it.
You know, Sidecar as the cocktail is my like go-to.
Oh, really?
Go-to order, yeah.
That's nice. I always go for the Manhattan. Mm-hmm. I was at a wedding party on Saturday night, and my first drink was a Manhattan. I'm always happy when I do that.
Well, speaking of drinking, speaking about this movie,
yes,
we're watching The Real Cancun, which is a film that was created by the producers of The Real World, and I also believe
MTV.
But
some spinoff of MTV.
I think it's a spinoff of MTV. I don't remember seeing an MTV logo watching this, but it was also the producers of Jackass.
Right, so this is the early days of reality TV.
Yeah, well, we're about 10 years in on The Real World, but this was an era that I recall where, you know, it's post-American Pie. You're really starting to get back into an 80s level of kind of showing that sexual exploitation to get the kids in the theaters, but it's also fusing with the advent of reality television. And this is a novel thing that really hasn't been replicated, where they made a feature film that would have been roughly a season of The Real World, but it's definitely abbreviated. It's
well, and it's
eight to 10 days or something like that.
And it's an especially good call and response to Spring Breakers.
Absolutely.
And this would be the response. This would be the other side of summer.
This is the cutaway shots of Spring Breakers.
Exactly.
This whole movie is those standalone montage things.
That's right. Yeah,
so
and these are the girls who didn't run off with the local badass drug dealer.
They had to get back to their little small towns with their long crushes who they've been leading on for years.
Yeah, this is what happens when you. I mean, I love the social study that this thing is, because this is how hormones work, and I think it's funny.
It's accurate,
and I think it's funny that this is what all of these people should be doing in their communities. Like, this is how they should be able to get whatever they want, anytime, all the time, which I think is an interesting facet of how culture has changed, because this is 2003, and now with Tinder and OkCupid. Tinder.
Well, yeah.
Love for Tinder.
I met my current girlfriend on Tinder.
That's... Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, but there is something about. So let's. This is a movie that we kind of have to defend why we're doing it in a certain way. Right? I feel that, but I also feel like we can back it up for lots of reasons.
I don't really feel like I have to. Like,
I don't mean from
and I think Paul and Jarrell are prime. They're prime real estate for why I don't have to defend this movie.
I don't feel defensive about it. I just want to share with people that there's a lot of interesting things happening in this film. One is that it is just a case study of where culture was at just post 9/11, where you just have...
But it's also a nature study. It's birds and the bees.
There's there's a universal anthropology that you can do that's always been like
the
what
mating
happens.
ritual. The mating
Right.
ritual is always the same. And this movie just shows you that no matter how quick the deed is done, the mating ritual is always the same.
But there's also something very American, very 21st century about it, about people really not giving a shit about what's going on in the world. One of the things that led me to rewatch this was this this essay that I should have looked up, and hopefully I'll try to put it in the notes of the show, a link to it. But this cinematographer wrote an essay about why this is a great film, and he brought up the fact that unacknowledged in the movie, because they would clearly not care about it, is the invasion of Iraq was happening simultaneous to the filming of this. And I think that's such a great sign of how you have teenagers just totally disconnected and taking this walkabout, this what do Amish people go on? Your Rumspringer is this if it's not actually something that all teenagers do after high school or during college, because I never did this shit, but
I never did either.
But you certainly feel kind of bad for.
But I went to San Diego State, which was just as good.
It's just this all
the time. Yeah.
There's a I think a sense that young people have that you should be doing.
But I had a culture clash with it because I considered myself an intellectual, always a mistake. And so I couldn't see. It took me a long time to grasp all of the non-irony of, dude, and people without books in their apartments and all that stuff. And so, but you're right. This is a perfect example of what it doesn't matter. 20-year-old human beings. This is what they do. It's what you're made for. You're made to just go out and have a lot of sex.
When was the last time you watched The Real World or any sort of MTV?
I never watched those shows.
Yeah, so is this a pretty alien thing to you?
It's not alien just because it was so much in the culture. Mm-hmm. Everyone's aware of this and the tone of it and the angles that they're shooting and the way. I think we should point out that they're staying in a resort, so it's an all-inclusive resort. So they're in this apartment complex right on the ocean where they can do whatever they want. The bartenders, everybody is there to look after them and to make sure that they're inebriated but they don't slip and split their head open.
There's certainly a sort of just assumed subservience to everyone who's not them in it, which I think is true of people that go on trips like this. And it's the irony of calling it.
Have you ever been on a trip like this?
I've been to Cancun. I've been to Cancun a lot with my family. We lived in Mexico. I was about 12, and
Catherine and I went to the DR when we first got together. She took me down to Dominican Republic, and we stayed at a place that was a lot like this. Yeah, but it was more hotel-y. They have it set up apartment-y.
Well, I've also been to Cabo San Lucas in a place similar to this. So I didn't. It wasn't a sexcapade, but
no,
unfortunately.
Shit, what the fuck?
Hey, but it was certainly in one of these very, I feel, phony feeling resorts like this. So I think the irony of calling it the Real Cancun it could not be. Yeah. It could not be further from it. And so you have what is, in essence, like a sex industry that pops up, and they're showing it in Florida, in Spring Breakers. This is actually in Mexico. And, what would you call it? Like sort of a sexual fantasy for middle-class white people to come and to...
Not just white people. Don't forget Jarrell and Paul.
There are 3 black people in this
and Sky. Yeah. Right, Sky. Yeah. Boy, is she a piece of work. Sky.
Yeah, she's a character who is really, I think, cut out more for the next era, or even further than that, of reality television, where you're someone who is bizarrely self-aware of what your gimmick is, and you say it. Like, a thing with the Real Housewives is that in the promos they'll often actually just say what their thing is, I'm
a psychotic bitch.
basically, sometimes more clever, sometimes less. And Sky's whole thing is that I want a guy who treats me bad so that I have to work for it.
Right.
Isn't it like that, basically?
That's exactly what she comes to. And then, but when the rubber hits the road, then she becomes this princess who has to only the prince who tries the hardest deserves her love. She completely reneges on her whole premise, and this is a thing that a tick that I always notice is any time, and it's funny that you pointed out about the Real Housewives of whatever, because anything that people profess themselves to be, 9 times out of 10, they are the exact opposite.
What have you
How many times have you heard somebody say, I am the most generous tipper. I'm a big tipper. I really look out for.
Can I give a counterexample about a reality TV star that completely undercuts your point?
Tell me.
What if your whole thing was about how amazing you are at making deals?
Oh no! Don't go there. Don't go there. No, you can't go there.
You can't actually. You sort of failed to get anything through Congress.
Okay.
You ruined all of our trade agreements. No, I think it's exactly your point, and I think that is where discussing talking about reality television has gone from, oh, what an interesting
idea
to take this stuff seriously. What a fun dissertation you're doing at the new school, to, no, this is serious anthropology, sociology you need to do to actually understand geopolitics at this time, because we have a reality TV star of this vein leading our country and who's operating us on these similar mechanics. And so the way that these, what you call a producer / editor that makes these shows, they're called a predator. That's the industry term. You can apply for a job as a predator. And they have developed a very specific narrative style, which is fascinating, which seems very difficult to do. But it is like bleeding into reality, and a lot of that. Remember the Adam Curtis movie that we watched, Hypernormalization, where he talks about the Russian theater major that worked for Putin, who was using theatrical skills to design global events for the maximum confusion.
Well, and all the think tanks. I mean, you look at where America. You know what? Yeah, you know how it works. There's all these bubble think tanks in DC, in and around DC, where all these whacked out nut jobs crank out these ridiculous ideas, and somehow they get put into, policy. That we don't have. I went to an alternative high school, and so the way it was called Open High, Richmond Open High, it's still around, and so every week we had a family meeting, which was your homeroom basically, and then every other week there was a town meeting where it was the whole school. So it'd be 140 people in a room for 3-4 hours with a moderator, Robert's Rules of Order. And so if you had an idea of something that you wanted to have happen in the school, you would bring it up in your family meeting to your representatives. There was 2 family representatives, and if there was enough support for it in the meeting, it would get put through to town meeting, and then we could be brought up and people would vote on it. So I had this really unique experience of being a part of this living, breathing society, and we don't have that.
Yeah,
it's not what we have.
No, we have tyranny of the loud. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what you're saying about before reminds me of this quote that I heard about Roger Ailes, the late founder of Fox News, which was that above facts, what he prized was narrative.
Uh-huh.
It's not what happened; it's how can we talk about what happened or describe what happened in a way that fits our narrative, furthers our narrative, where we want to take the conversation and the end of things. And you see people so conspicuously editing reality, and I kind of want to look into it, because I imagine that at this point there is a pretty easy jump from reality TV producing to politics or to policy writing, or to the public relations on it, because so this movie presents itself as occurring chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple arcs, and so let's try to like name some of these arcs because they're very archetypical.
I always like to think about who gets the booty on the first night. Because we got two people that get some booty on the first night.
They're the kind of the broier guys, the guys who like deserve it the least, right?
No, yeah, but also Paul.
Which one's Paul?
Paul. There's the two brothers, and Paul is he's the ladies' man. He's He's the one who brings home the bacon. And not only that, they don't really get into. They don't really.
And it gets Sky really jealous.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that's right, but they don't get into it too deep. But Paul brings home some strange from the bar.
Yeah,
it's a big point, man. It's a good issue. It's an important part because he's not playing within the rules.
So you have Emmys coming in. They have this sort of like total player mentality.
You expect that everyone who on this show, all of these people that they brought together, are all going to be banging each other. But Paul makes a move. He makes a bold move on the first night and brings home something from outside the community. It seems like kind of
some sort of like game theory move, which it's some 4D chess is like if I get with that girl's gonna get jealous. But here's what I gotta do. Bring some totally outside. Yeah. Then
it puts him in a huge position of power that he maintains throughout the whole movie. So while everybody else is working for power, he establishes his power and he maintains it, and then he pulls it out at the end like a champ. I shouldn't say that. I'm using the opposite. He did the opposite of that. And
you're like Lao Tzu up in here. You're scaring me. And then we have our sort of southern bro who doesn't drink alcohol.
The innocent.
He can't dance for shit.
He's from Texas or something. He's from Lubbock. He's from Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah,
same as Buddy Holly. He's got like a little Buddy Holly in him.
He's gangly as fuck.
He loves boobies. He's so immature. He's so willfully immature, but just dying to get.
I mean, you get a like
busy.
You get a sense that it's because he's Christian. That he doesn't want to drink, but it's also he does seem to have the mind of a child. Like I don't think he should be intoxicated.
No, he's very, very boyish. He's a very young 20 or whatever.
Then you have who I'll call again baby Paul Ryan, who is in love with his best friend,
but won't admit it.
And she
won't admit it either.
Like she seems fine with pretending to be into him or not. I don't know. She doesn't seem as like hung up on it. They definitely have a very serious Sam and Diane thing going on.
What is Sam and Diane?
What? From Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the one that gets the Cheers references. To be fair, we are watching on YouTube.
It's just
on YouTube. There is a version of it in French, uncensored,
and it is in French. Let me tell you,
it is.
See a lot of French right now. A lot of French action.
There's a wet T-shirt contest happening.
Oh, there's no T-shirts involved. What are you talking about?
Wet T-shirt contests
bare
were
boobies.
Such a concept when I was this age. When this came out, I was 13 when this movie came out, and I think they've stopped being relevant.
Nonsense, mon frere. Nonsense.
I mean, I'm sure they still happen. I'm sure people go to it. I guess I grew out of my obsession with them. That must be it, right?
Yeah. No, boobies will always be big.
I feel like in a
Did I say that right? Boobies will always be big.
I feel like there was a period in like a mainstream culture where you just heard about them more. There's more of a like.
You heard about boobies more?
No, about like wet T-shirt contests and just like getting women to competitively take their tops off.
Anywhere that anywhere that it's warm, San Diego, Florida.
But in like mainstream like comedies, like there's a movie Old School and there's like a wet T-shirt contest in it. I remember we wanted to get the unrated version.
Well, listen, what about the trope where you have the women in bikinis washing cars? How many times have you seen that in movies? And how many times are you going to see that in movies?
I want to say less, but it's also am I just absorbing different media?
You're always going to see boobies.
It's certainly like when you think about it from a producer's
An
point of view.
anthropological point of
Well, I
view.
was gonna say a producer's point of view.
If you go to the Metropolitan Museum,
it is a low cost way to pack adolescent boys into a movie theater.
There you
right?
go.
You
There
don't
you go.
need. You either need to blow stuff up. You need Arnold Schwarzenegger. You need helicopters crashing, or you just shoot 10 days of a reality show and make sure that you hire some women.
I love that somehow during the bungee jump, the girl gets stung by a jellyfish.
So this isn't. So
She's in the water for about 0.03 seconds.
This most evidently to me.
I think this is
fake.
staged.
Yeah, I think this is entirely.
They just wanted to put some pee on her leg.
Because she gets.
This is phony.
Oh well, yeah.
I mean, there's just no way that she would get. You can't get bitten by a jellyfish when you're only in the water for a split second.
But so I think there's a lot to be said, and
so they
has been
staged this. So the producer had to go up to the girl and say, okay, so we have this idea for this bit that we want to put in here, but we're gonna need to pour pee-pee on your leg.
Yeah,
are you okay with that?
So let's break this down. All right, they want a sequence where something shocking happens in the movie, where someone has to pee on a girl. Okay,
yes, that's correct.
And they are very lazy about it. They have no special effects. They're not going to shoot it multiple times. So what you're seeing are like the most simple basics of storytelling.
Look at her acting.
Right. That this is the worst part because she's having to act. This is the most basic storytelling. So how do we show this in images? Well, we cut away to stock footage of a jellyfish. We like hire someone in a med outfit to walk up and say like he needs to pee on you, because that's what medical professionals say. They don't say let's get some saline solution and pour it on you.
Yeah, and it's a group scene, so it's got and the cup is in there, Fat Day Rules, and it's very bros and sos, right? What do they call sorority girls? Socias? I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, just talking about the storytelling.
But they put a pad over her leg.
I don't really see the point of that.
The actual pee-pee does not stain the flesh.
So what's story beat do you think this is fulfilling? Because this is definitely like sort of creates like unity between them. I think it's like it was a wise choice to have a thing where like someone's hurt and they'll have to get together and have this sort of little bonding. Yeah, and
it makes him seem manly and ready.
All right, Cole. This is the first time we usually have the movie on. I think Cole's just sort of watching the movie and just enjoying it.
It's such a silly movie. Catherine kept walking by when I was watching it and hearing any line of dialogue out of this thing is so insipid that. I mean, I will say this for the movie: it is entertaining. It is entertaining.
And there's a lot of reality stuff that's not entertaining. Yeah. So did you know that this movie was filmed over, I believe, like 10 days, edited in 5 weeks? It was from the beginning of summer and was released by like the late middle of summer.
That's good.
So that's like an extraordinary turnaround time for a film.
It is, but in a way, I'm surprised it took them 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I think I could probably hammer this thing out in about 15 days. I'm sure they shot a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff on. Well,
like I was saying, there's like when you watch, there's a bunch of people who live in that house who you are not introduced to, and they clearly just did not have an arc that turned anywhere. They didn't. Nothing.
What I like is when the hotel employees try to get in on the action.
Yeah.
Because they do that all the time, and you can see they're really working it. Like the employees are really trying to get in the action and get their screen time. God bless them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just a bartender in Cancun, like it's not often your chance to get your SAG card.
I like the guy who comes in the room. He's just checking it out to see if there's any action he can get.
I don't remember this part.
Yeah, it's there. Well, anyway, so I'm glad that we watched this in relation to Spring Breakers, because I think that just to bring this movie onto Le Grande Bouffe is a little weird without that context. But given that context, I'm very glad that we had this movie, and it's everything that you think it will be.
It certainly delivers on its promise, and I think that there's something extra about it, which is that when you take the regular scenes that are in a real world, a road rules type thing, and you just have the scenes go on a little bit longer than they should, then the truly depressing nihilism of what these people are doing comes out. This movie is a little too self-aware and is slightly unhinged in a way that these shows never quite are, maybe because they're just so rapidly edited. There's something darker about this, which I really enjoy. But to just kind of tie it all around with Spring Breakers has this thesis essentially that at the heart of Spring Break is a homicidal mania. Do you think that holds true?
Patrick Bateman.
Do you think that all of these people are Patrick Bateman in essence?
No, I think quite the opposite. These are a bunch of little bunnies who need to go be naked together as much as possible, and that's fine.
I mean, I will say that this was early reality TV where these people were not. They were not that cynical. They were not like they really do seem like they're on this show because Mexico seems fun.
Yeah.
Where everyone's on a show now because of the brand deals that you'll make and the celebrity that you'll get.
They're trying to brand themselves.
Yeah. So there is a great deal of nostalgia and innocence to this, and it's honestly you don't come out totally hating them.
No, you don't. I think that their mores of 2013 are so dramatically different from 2017. I think that it's comical and provincial. It really, by today's standards, you think all the drama that these kids are going through. There's still. I mean, I'm not saying that the mating ritual doesn't remain the same, but times have changed, and people don't relate the same as these people did.
There's a real innocence to their interactions, and it's worth a watch for a lot of reasons. Go into it just to be real critical of humanity. Go into it to see a simpler time. Go into it to see some boobies, I guess, and also some like rock hard abs
and booty,
and some rock hard
boobies and
hard
booty.
abs. Some nice chiseled.
Yeah, young people.
California.
They're all so pretty.
Chests.
All the pretty young things. Thank you all very much for listening. Please remember to turn your cell phones off whenever you feel like it, and even when you don't. And you can always pledge your support for Le Grande Bouffe through my Patreon page, which if you just go to colesmithy.com, where you can find all of the Le Grande Bouffe Big Feast podcasts archived, you will see a link to my Patreon page. And if you go there, you can pledge $5 or $10 or $20 a month. $5 a month would be great, just to help keep things like Le Grande Bouffe coming to you every week. And of course, please share and like and tell your friends and all of those other pleasing things that make the social media internet world go round.